I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. I'm setting up a storage device here, and that got me started putting things away in the shop. So I'm rearranging and sorting and putting things away. I'm sure a lot of you guys do this every day. While I was doing it, I found a series of things that needed little things to be done. And I thought, well, I should just set them aside and get back to them later. And then I thought, you know, there's no better time than the present. If you fix it now, it's fixed. Then you put it away fixed, and when you go to get it out, it's working. So I'm going to take care of a problem that's been broken for a long time. Some of you may remember that I had bar clamps on the agenda for a couple of days. I was talking about what I did with them, how they worked, what to do as far as replacing a spring, and some of the things about them. Well, while I was doing that, I discovered that this clamp had a broken thread on it. Now, it's not something that broke through overuse, it just rotted off. This is one of Dad's old ones, and I think it got left in the weather. Some people borrowed some of his tools and left them out where they got exposed to the rain and the wind and weather. And the galvanized pipe was actually a good thing. And this part was painted, but the screw thread got pretty rusty. I cleaned that up. But the first time I tightened it up, that broke. Well, I stuck it on the shelf and said, okay, I'm in the middle of a project, I'll fix that later. That was a long time ago. And the base on it I think actually I have two sets mixed up. This is the proper one that goes with that one, and then this is the proper one that goes with this one. I cleaned it up enough so it would work. But when I tightened it up on something, that little piece of pipe thread here snapped off and it wouldn't hold. So I set it aside and said, okay, I'll fix that when I get time. But that was a long time ago and I never did fix it. So I'm taking this opportunity today to take care of that problem. One of the things that I like about this Craftsman vise, even though it's a little 4-inch vise, it's built quite well. It has a set of cast-in pipe jaws right here underneath the main jaws of the vise. I have another small vise that's not as good because it has two little metal bars on either side. They're steel, but they're just plain steel. They're just plain soft steel that were cast into the casting that made up the vise. And they bend easy and they don't grip very well. This vise holds well enough that even with this pipe wrench, I can't turn that pipe. Makes it really handy for jobs like this. So when I'm going to cut off this bit of thread, works really well. One of the other things that I like about this vise is it spins. Now I had to straighten this all out to get it to do that. When I first brought it home, this bar was so bent and twisted that I couldn't tighten it. Now, it works quite well. and I can set this in those jaws like so. Deburr the edge after I've cut it. Handle. Quite the deal. 25 cents for a file with a handle. Nice big coarse rasp. Quite the deal. Now I could go out to the garage and get the chamfering tool that would clean up the burr on the inside of that pipe, but it's buried in the plumbing tools underneath the workbench, and it's dark and cold out there tonight. I'm not going to go get it. I took a file. With that file I'm able to use the file to deburr it, so I can get a good start. Then I'm going to use this pipe die, which I bought when I was running plumbing in the house over on Dunks Road in Union City. And I said, well, if I buy one really good one now, I'll never buy another. This half-inch pipe threading die is probably cut 50 threads, maybe. I don't think I'll ever wear it out. Another thing that I bought at the same time that I bought the die is I bought this ratchet. All I have to do is crank the handle, a little bit of oil on there. Keeps the die from dulling and makes for a better cut. Now you can use it pulling the handle up like this. Now I want to crank the die until the pipe comes out to the end of the jaws. The reason for that is you want to have this tapered down far enough that it starts into the thread and threads all the way into the pocket. The threads in this clamp are also tapered. So I want it to start here and thread all the way in and engage all those threads. Plumbers call that the make. And the make needs to be that long so it'll engage. And you also want to always have the same make on the pipe, because that's going to be something that you measure when you cut the pipe to length. Because if I were putting this into a house, say running lines to the kitchen sink, I would want to cut these pipes to a certain length. You don't want to have the pipe going up through the floor in random places out in the middle of the room, so you set up the job to go a certain distance. The make is just an additional bit of pipe that you have to add into your measurements so that you can allow for that distance that thread goes into the coupling or T or whatever you thread it into. Now if I had oiled this up and kept it oiled all those years, that I kept it in the barn in the toolbox, it wouldn't have rusted like this. Fortunately, the dies didn't rust. The dies are good steel. But the casting rusted around this outside edge. Okay. Now I have that threaded. And this will start right on there. And I can take the pipe wrench and draw it up so that it fully engages the threads. There. Now that's not going to break off. Cleaned up, oiled, ready to go. If I keep it warm and dry, or at least dry, it should last a long, long time. Take this bit of steel pipe and put it in the steel scrap. That way when I go to the junkyard, I just throw this in the back of the truck, and when they get it, they pick the whole thing up with a magnet and off it goes. Now you might think it'd be a good idea to just store these two together, but that means that if they do rust, which they shouldn't, but if they do, then they rust together and you can't get them apart. So you want to separate them. Now I have two pipe clamps set up and ready to go. Got the parts swapped back where they belong. I don't know why that got switched out, but must have been some reason at the time. These can go back on the rack, be ready to go for the next time I need them. I have to clean up the pipe die. Still got to take some rust off of that. The oil that I put on it's going to help, but it needs to be cleaned up. And that's pretty much it for tonight. If you guys have a suggestion for a new video, question about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. And remember, this was not a drill.